Hi, I'm Phil from e-Qualitas. I'm joined today by Stuart, who works on our Subject Knowledge Enhancement course delivery. Hi, Stuart.
Hello. Hello, everyone.
So we just wanted to have a chat today and go through a few things about Subject Knowledge Enhancement courses, SKEs as they're more commonly known. So Stuart, thanks for joining me. Would you be able to introduce yourself perhaps and let us know what you do for e-Qualitas?
Sure, I'm Stuart and I'm one of the tutors for e-Qualitas on their SKE courses in science and maths. I started working with e-Qualitas in 2019, originally to write the physics SKE course for them. Before that, I spent about 10 years working in schools, teaching mostly science, but also some maths. And before that, I was an academic scientist doing research and some university teaching. And now, as well as working for e-Qualitas, I still spend 2 or 3 days a week working in various schools as and when needed.
So I find it interesting that your background's in science and maths. I mean, that's kind of quite clued into exactly what subject knowledge enhancement courses are all about, really, that kind of change in lane from one subject to another.
Absolutely, and I think there is quite a big overlap between the two. And the reality is that even though people might do teacher training in one subject, once they're in the schools, then situations change, the schools needs to change. And one of the groups of students we work with are people who may have a teacher training qualification in one subject and their career has taken them a slightly different direction. So over the last few months, I've been working with a student who started life as a PE teacher, and for various reasons, they're moving into teaching chemistry. And they had science knowledge somewhere back in their mind. But really, the role of an SKE course is to say, what are the gaps in your knowledge, but also what are the things that you learned a while back, and deep down you know them, but you don't know them fluently and confidently. And I think my hope for students I work with is that at the end of the SKE course, they're confident enough about the subjects they're doing that they can then don't have to worry about those, and they can think about all the other things that are going on in a classroom.
I think confidence that's the word that I've really kind of got out from my conversations with trainees who've done the courses. And recently I was talking to a head teacher who'd had a trainee in the school take a subject knowledge enhancement course. And I think it was important for their confidence in their new teacher in their confidence in their curriculum knowledge as they came into the school that was really coming across from that conversation.
Absolutely, and it's the kind of thing that classes notice. They really can tell the difference between a teacher who's on top of what the lesson is about and one who is staying one page ahead of them in the textbook or whatever. And it makes the whole process of teaching so much nicer and more enjoyable.
With the subject knowledge enhancement courses, would you be able to maybe describe how a typical course is structured? I know we sort of typically say an 8 to 12 week course, but yeah, just if there's such a thing as a typical one.
Well, yeah, at e-Qualitas there are the 8-week and 12-week versions of the course, and they're both designed to get students to a point where they can teach top grade GCSE content with confidence and fluency. So the 8-week course will cover everything that's on the GCSE national curriculum, or for maths or for biology or whatever. And then we recognise that some students, they need a little bit more time, particularly with some of the trickier topics. So in the 12-week course, some of those more demanding units are broken down a bit. There's a bit more of a gentle introduction in the first 4 weeks, so that then those students are ready in the final 8 weeks to do the GCSE level work.
And within that, what would a sort of typical module look like? So a module would be usually roughly a week long. That's sort of each bit of it. How does that usually?
Yeah, so it's about a week long, and it's designed to be about 25 hours of thinking and doing in order to cover an area of the course. And so that will start with an interactive online presentation, going through the content that's needed, some keyword examples, and at the end of each of those, there's a quick online quiz, which is sort of marked automatically, and it's about making sure, yes, you've got a grasp of the basics. After that, we send students away to do some thinking about ideas for themselves. So there are some offline learning activities, and they will vary a lot depending on what the subject is. So it might be doing some more practice questions, or it might be reading an article about the teaching of some part of that topic, or it might be engaging with some of the many teaching resources that are out there. So, for example, looking at a computer simulation of a key experiment and having played it to see sort of the sorts of things that might be useful then in the classroom.
Okay, brilliant. No, that's and would you say that in terms of interaction with a tutor on a typical week, how much time would be spent getting that kind of one-to-one interaction or with a group interaction?
I think it varies a lot depending on the needs of the student. One of the lovely things about working this course is the opportunity to be flexible and responsive to students' needs. So at the start of the course, we have a 15-minute or so phone conversation to understand the student's story, where they're coming from, and where they're going to be confident and sort of get through a certain module maybe very quickly, but also where their key learning needs are, which topics or which areas across the course they might find harder and they might need more support. Beyond that, we're always at the end of an email, at the end of a phone call. So some students will go through the course very, very smoothly and won't really have many problems at all. And there often the interaction is through the feedback to assignments and suggestions of, that's fantastic, here's a way you could take that further in the classroom. And then, but also, if students need it, we can talk about problems and questions, initially often by email, and then over the phone if we need to.
Brilliant. I mean, I think that's one of the real advantages to the SKE. We always saying that everything on the online side of it, that it's an online course. So there's you've got access to resources and that you've got access to communication with tutors.
Absolutely. Oh, we think the online courses are great. I'm certainly very pleased with the one I wrote, I have to say that, but there's always a real human at the end of it. We aim to be accessible.
That's brilliant. I mean, if you were to sort of think about, as we've said, there's not really any typical module. There's so many different modules within, and we do all the core subjects. It's not, you know, an English module and challenge on that might be very different to a maths or science one. But what do you think are the kind of challenges that your students face while taking SKE courses, or what might someone find challenging doing one?
It depends a lot on what their background is. So, I think every student we have doing SKE, they're all different. So some people have got a lot of school experience. They may be working as a TA at the moment, and they've got the whole structuring of content for teaching. They know how to do that, but there are details of the maths, or the science, or the English, which they've not done for themselves for a long time, and just aren't sure about that content. There's another group of students who may have done exactly the right degree, or they may have done a closely related one. So, for example, there might be an engineer training to do physics. They know lots of physics, but their big challenge is often, how do you communicate what you know to the class in front of you? And that's kind of the guts of what teaching is all about.
So, I mean, I know that's obviously being a teacher yourself. Do you find that you're continuously drawing on your own experience through the lessons you give in a subject knowledge enhancement course?
Absolutely. I mean, a lot of the things that are in the SKE course, which you wouldn't necessarily find in the GCSE textbook, they're the sorts of things where if you've taught something a few times, you'll develop an understanding of what explanations work, what can you say to a class so that they will understand what you want them to understand, and hopefully avoid any confusions or misconceptions. And certainly with my physics background, that's often a lot of the art of teaching. And yeah, hopefully by modeling what a good physics explanation is, that's something that we can help students start to develop ready for when they're going to be in the classroom themselves.
And with your SKE learners, how often do you provide them feedback throughout the duration of a course or a module?
Well, as you said earlier on, most students do the course on the basis of one module a week, in which case they will hand in an assignment at the end of the week, and they'll get then pretty detailed feedback both on their answers to some subject content questions, but also the lesson planning activity that we do, which I think is one of the things that's really useful about the e-Qualitas course, that it's very much focused on you're not just learning this to pass a GCSE, you're learning it in the context that you're going to be teaching it. And so there are several aspects of each module, both lesson planning, but also the reflective practice tasks, which are all about how could you go about teaching this. And okay, a lot of our students, they haven't yet begun their PGCs or their school director or whatever teacher training they're going to do, but it's never too early to start thinking about those sorts of questions.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's quite common for a trainee to take, or someone who's perhaps going on to their initial teacher training, to take their subject knowledge enhancement course sort of immediately before the ITT begins.
Absolutely.
So obviously it's the best time to get your curriculum knowledge in order before you go into the classroom.
And also hopefully some of the activities that students do on their SKE course, they can help start to tick off some of the teaching standards that they're eventually going to be able to need to do. So something I always encourage my students to do is, even the bits of the course which haven't been directly marked by me as a tutor, keep your copies of your work, because you never know when they're going to come in useful in the future.
It's all transferable, isn't it? It's the same.
Absolutely.
The same progress is, yeah, throughout their career. One thing that we touched on, and there is a separate video of this, which I can share a link to along with this video, is the learning management system. I mean, how do you find that to use, or what sort of feedback do you get from trainees when they're using that?
I think that there are a couple of quirks, but any online LMS, there are quirks which some people just sail through. And often in the first week or so, I will gently walk a student through, this is how you upload the content, these are the buttons you've got to press. So I think, like anything online, there are sometimes little bumps in the road, but nothing big, and the teachers are here to help when we need to. And often we can see from the reports we see on the LMS, the students done the right things, but just needs to press that button to completely finish it.
And that's the kind of thing that they're supported on, because it's being accessed from sort of the back end from our side of the LMS.
Yeah.
Brilliant. I mean, I say that as we're talking on Zoom, and yeah, it's something I always manage to get something wrong at some point in a Zoom call, as we've already had one or two technical difficulties doing this. But I think, yeah, as I said, I think like from our video on the LMS that I will share links to, it's pretty user friendly, and there's yeah, all the content's on there for a module. So yeah, we'll probably have some more videos coming up, I think, on that as well. So I'll share links on the various parts of our website with this. I think that's been really insightful. Thanks, Stuart. I think that's given us a really good insight into the SKE courses.
It's been a pleasure.
Thank you very much. And yeah, I'm sure we'll be having another webinar for anyone who's watching who didn't get to that. And Stuart, thanks for joining us on that more recently as well.
Thank you.
Thank you.